if you'll get copies over there, and two of those close to the end, there's actually 2 pages there. I kind of flipped them sideways so you could tell. No, you're on this is close to that end. No. Go ahead and get one of each of those, except for the 5th and 6th ones. There's 2 pages for each of those. Today's the 8th, right? Okay, thanks. I have no clue what number it is. That's my problem. Okay. I'm going to finally make a little seating chart so I can learn your names with your faces instead of just saying, hey, who are you? Okay. Morgan, right? Okay. Hey, Dante. You can just call me Miss Thompson, Miss T, Patty, I don't really care. Jose? Yes. Okay. And Mateo he sent me a course message telling me he has a major sinus infection. I said, have you thought about getting tested? Because I thought I had a sinus infection and it was COVID last Thanksgiving. So I said, you might want to get tested just to be safe. So, and Dante, we've got a bunch of papers back there. You need one of each, except for, you're going to see, like, in that long row, there's a couple where you actually have 2 pages to grab on each of those. But you grab you grab all of them. You need something from every single stack. Okay? And it's amazing how hard it is for college kids. Even though I had them set in sets of 2, to grab a set of 2. It's amazing. The reason they're like that is because if I copy over there, it'll print front and back. If I do that, but they charge my department. So we've got a printer and a computer classroom that we are supposed to print as much as possible in because it doesn't hurt our account. So. Huh? I can't understand you. Oh, how's our day going? Okay. I'm old, I don't hear well. Oh, it goes, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I will definitely be tested. If my symptoms persist, I will let SVC know if it is positive as well as my teachers. So, okay. So you should have 7 different documents. Some of them have 2 pages, but we're not going to cover all of them. Where are the schools? Oh, great. Scott, once again, they're not there. Oh, that's not where I'm saying. We didn't have them last Wednesday either, did we? Okay. Sorry, popping my gum. I'm such an adult. I'm assuming Reed will be dropped out of this class in the next couple of days because he's never attended. So, don't remember where Mateo's at. Oh no. Is that right next to you? Okay. Okay, I'll put him. I'm trying to figure out why. Were you sitting over there originally, Jose?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I've
I
got
was
you.
sitting here and then I moved over here so she could see.
Okay.
And that
Because
was-
it's so exciting to see me. Oh, it's not, listen, the only thing that bugs me is last year with COVID, I'd have students sitting over there and I'd be going, I'd have to do that all the time. It shows. Okay, let me answer this question. Okay. All right. It's the time issue on there again, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think I started that.
Oh.
We were at the kiosk and we got coupons.
Why I said hi.
No, wait. Oh, 'cause I was walking from Foot Action
Oh.
and I think he had actually stopped me and I was like, I'm good. Because there was a Demon Slayer shirt on the thing.
That's embarrassing. I can't do that. Yeah, it was Saturday.
Yeah, I read that.
All right, I've just contacted my schools. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the one that's got the outline at the beginning, okay? It's a PowerPoint, it's a quick one just about narratives, all right? So if need be, they can at least, yeah, it looks like an outline form, okay? No, that's his narrative outline. This is the very first page you had sitting up top. That's an outline, that's the outline I'm talking about. I'm just so used to, that's what an outline of a PowerPoint looks like, okay?
Oh,
Narrative,
that PowerPoint, okay.
yeah, it's a PowerPoint, yeah. So, all right, here we go. Oh, sheer excitement. Oh, what can we say? We're gonna cover a lot today. But I will tell you, we are not going to cover those grammar worksheets. I got them to you because probably we'll do some work with those next Monday. Because you're gonna have a quiz over comma splices and fused run-on sentences next Friday that you'll take at home. And I want you to have the worksheets so you can use them on that test.
The quiz is next Friday?
Over grammar, it's in your syllabus, you need to get to a little schedule that's got, they make weekly schedules, okay? And it'll have days, it'll have the month and the day, and you write what's due on every day.
Alright.
Or you look at, instead of making notes like this. I mean, it's about that size, those schedules are.
Oh, I know, it's personal preference.
Oh, okay, then that's fine. You have quizzes Friday in this class over chapters 3 and 4.
Alright.
In the reading. And the best way to pass those, I'll just tell you up front, the best way to pass those is when you go to take them on Friday, before you spend 15 minutes before you're doing it, look through that chapter, write down the headings, the subheaders, any major points, ignore all the questions over the activities, don't worry about those, and write the e-page number on it. You can open up the frickin' e-book while you're taking the quiz. Did y'all do that on the last one? I don't care. Because at least you've looked at the book by doing that, haven't you? Because there's no way I can force you to read the book.
I listened to both chapters and just wrote down things.
Wrote down the things? Okay. You know, you know, I haven't really glanced at the scores, I just have noticed if everybody's taken them or not, that's what I've looked at, okay?
How
So,
much was each question? Out of curiosity.
Well, there were 15 questions, I think there were 1 point apiece, if it's 10, it's like 1 point, it's whatever. The whole quiz is worth 15 points, that's all. That's what I think that's what it says in the, yeah, there's 8 reading quizzes at 15 points apiece, so which is 120 points total. All right, let's talk about narrative essays. So do you guys recognize the actor up here in that, up on that screen? Morgan Freeman, right? And he's got one of those voices that's just,
Soothing.
it's soothing. And wouldn't you like to have him narrate your life, maybe?
Yes.
But it would imply that your life was maybe pretty good, right? And he has played God, okay? So that's, I like the image of him. So, but the purpose of a narrative is to tell a story, okay? That's all. So narrative essays tend to be organized traditionally in a chronological order. There are a lot of people that like to write where they begin, or you have flashbacks, you go back in time, or they begin in medias res, which is in the middle of the story. If you think about it, sometimes, you know, I realize most of y'all don't like to read. I'm aware of that. Yeah, so, but they'll begin in the middle of the story, because if you begin in the middle of the action, you can pull people in more easily. So that's one reason why they do that. But I don't expect y'all to do that, because this is a minimum of 500 words. That's not very long. So if you try to go back and jump around in time, it becomes too confusing, all right? But this essay should begin, it is an essay, not a paragraph. It should begin with an introductory paragraph that says what you're going to write about. And then one of the things I'm going to change in here is one of the later points. This essay can be 3 paragraphs long. An introduction, the body where you give the basic narrative, and then a conclusion. In here it says it should be a paragraph followed by a minimum of 3 paragraphs and a conclusion. I'm saying you can just do 3. So make that note to yourself. Always end your essay with a memorable and strong concluding paragraph. And when you're writing a narrative, and particularly since these are going to tend to be personal narratives, you can end with, in that conclusion, your whole big point could be, what did you learn from the story that you told me? It might just be about how important your family is to you. I learned today that my family is the most important thing in my life. I learned that I really should not drink and drive. You know, whatever the lesson was. That's what we used to teach when I had to teach for the TOX test. I never had to teach for STAR test. Amen, thank heavens. But, you know, most often they would say, write a narrative because it's easier to write something you know about, which is you. Most kids are pretty much the center of their world, right? And it's okay. And so you write better about things you know more about, and that's why we say that. And then always remember to stick to one point throughout each paragraph. Don't. That's why we worked on a paragraph. So, and they need to flow smoothly from one to the other. All right, so we'll move on to transitions. Essays, transitions in essays are important. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll say, the first thing we did on our trip to the Bahamas was this, and then the second thing we did was this, and then the third thing we did on our trip. Let's try to avoid using first, second, third, fourth, fifth. If we're going to try to transition from events in a story, let's go. The first thing we did on our trip was we got big, glorious margaritas. Then after that, tried not to do first, second, and third. Hold on, give me a second here. I'm going to see if I'm getting a message about.
You use transition, is what you're saying.
Yes, use transition words.
Going forward would be good.
Going forward, it depends on oh, look, there's post. Awesome. Yay. We've already started on the one that's the PowerPoint app, and hopefully Morton will be in a second, okay?
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Awesome. There's some kind of a time glitch between the region and SPC is what's going on. But we went ahead and started. I'm texting. Oh, there's Martin. Yay! Now they're there. So we're just going over the one that's the PowerPoint that, it looks like a PowerPoint presentation because it has little squares and it'll say 1, and then another little square and it says 2, and it gives you what was on that slide. I'm not going to go back, but I was just checking to see. I got a text message about, no, I got an email about one of my other classes. All right, so we're talking about transitions. So when you're writing a narrative, think about it as, first we did this, later on, see how that's a good transition, that says you're gonna move on. The first fun thing we did on our trip was this, later on, in our time in the Bahamas, we did this, see how you can do that, instead of going first, second, third, fourth, because you've gotta be careful. You don't wanna be, and finally, the last thing we did was fly home, okay. Do I really need to know about your flight home?
No.
Not unless it crashed. And then you wouldn't be writing the story, right? So, okay. So, the viewpoint is interesting, because narratives tend to be personal, you can use first person in it. I don't wanna see any more first person. You are allowed to use first person in the paragraph. I've not graded any in this class. I think I maybe have graded one out of this class. But I like 7 finishing the class before you guys, which is my biggest section. So I will be getting into your paragraphs today. But first person, which is I, me, my, watch out for first person. You can use it on this, but remember, if you're writing about your trip to the Bahamas, do I really want for every sentence to begin with, I did this, and then I did that, and I, that gets boring, you know? And don't fall into we did this and we did that. Who's we? Because pronouns are boring. Pronouns are just used so that we're not constantly saying Dante or Jose, you know? We're not using those names all the time so that we don't get that kind of repetition. But don't have every sentence be I. Oh, all are there. Yeah. Okay. So first person, on this one, that's it. After this, you're gonna write in third person, which is very formal. And even when you write argumentatively in the last essay where you're gonna do some research, I know it's your opinion. You don't have to say, in my opinion. Because I know it's your opinion because you're the author of the paper. But we're trying to develop a more formal academic, but we write the narrative because that's what's easiest for you to begin writing. Okay? After the paragraph. All right. And since this allows you to go and think about something, you can try to pick something amusing. Kids will write about sad stuff, I'll tell you that. There's a lot of sad stuff out there. And so that's it on the PowerPoint. Viewpoint. So you can use first person, but don't focus on first person. Because then it's about you instead of whatever you're describing. You with me on that? All right, I can get out of that. I don't have to do that one anymore this year. I'm done with it. Let's go look at the one that talks about 5 tips for writing a good narrative essay. I found this online. I thought it was a pretty good example of, or it was very helpful with what you're going to be doing. But one of the things it points out is that narrative, come on, I thought I changed it. Okay, narrative writing can be used for more than just writing personal things. Depending on your career, if you go into criminal justice or if you go into the medical field, sociology, psychology, you're going to be writing information about individuals. So telling something, particularly if you're relating it to colleagues about research you've done, a narrative can become more interesting than just dry statistics. And a lot of times when you're doing certain research, sometimes it is qualitative versus quantitative. Quantitative research means you have numbers. Qualitative means you have stories about whatever it is. So that's what basically is saying in here. Whoops, scroll. All right, so the first thing you've got to think about is writing with clarity. And that's one of those things that I have been noticing in the paragraphs that I graded from my earlier section today, that people they were vague. Well, my family is very special to me and I love them very much. Or somebody was writing about their 3 favorite things. And one of them was, they talked about their family, the music, and food at Christmas. And the only one they gave any specifics on was the food, and they talked about tamales and hot chocolate, which I don't necessarily associate with Christmas. I realize tamales are big in Hispanic culture. Well, yeah, and I like tamales. And you could buy them all the time when I was growing up, so. At Christmas, it was easier. The Catholic Church was always selling them. And they're so much better when they're handmade, you know. I'm not knocking Pedro's, but clarity, it's important to be clear and be specific. So, complex words and syntax are a hindrance to clarity. If you try to write for the teacher, because by golly, you're sitting in a college English class now, and I need to sound like I'm in college. I got to use big words, and I've got to make it complicated sounding because that's what she's going to want. No, the best writing is clear and concise. All right? Because if I have to work to understand what you're talking about, or, you know, I mean, somebody wrote, it's organizationally, I graded one last night, and I was like, well, it's, you know, the organization is good, there's no grammar, punctuation, and mechanics, but it's pretty boring. It's not very interesting. When you don't give details, it doesn't make it interesting. I said you missed some opportunities to bring some life to your writing. And really, you know, how hard is it to say, you know, to talk about, you know, if you're going to write about the music at Christmas, well, give me the name of the song. Oh, the slow, lovely melodies of Christmas. You know, which song are you talking about? You're talking about Oh Holy Night? That's a slow one. Okay? So you see what I'm saying? Details sometimes make the difference between a B and an A, things like that. So the example they give is, although I have never been to the races before, I was very excited to behold them, yet also somewhat nervous because of the type of people who go there. All right. Have any of you ever used the word behold in a sentence when you're talking to someone else?
No.
No. Don't use it when you're writing for me. I don't use the word behold. I sing it. What is it? Behold, in the Bible, behold, we bring you great tidings of good joy that shall be to all people.
Unless you're describing that where you went to the circus. Behold, the mighty
Yeah.
someone.
Well, it still sounds pretentious, doesn't it? Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to be something you're not. So watch your language. And that's one of the things. Don't write the words you think I want to hear. I want it to be authentic to your voice. And I have to be careful that I don't say, that I have to be careful that I understand that you're 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20 maybe. I got one 32-year-old, that's it, out of all my students. So I have one adult and everybody else is still kids, right? So, but look at what they did. I've never been to a horse race. I was excited to go, but also a little nervous since I wasn't sure about the people at the track. Much more descriptive. It's a better sentence in that I can get an image of what's going on just because it's, you know, I was excited, I was very excited. See, there's not a whole lot different, but it's just more active, I guess is part of it. Don't describe each and every one of your own movements. That's the thing that happens. All right, I'm coming back to me because it's much better to look at me. No, it isn't, but. So you're going to write your paper and you want to write about your most favorite vacation. You're going to write about your trip to the Bahamas. I've never been, okay? But, so what students will do with it is, we were so excited to go, my family was so excited to go on our trip to the Bahamas. And then their next paragraph again where, I packed my suitcases and I included this and this and this and this. Does the reader really need to know what you packed in your suitcase to take to the Bahamas? No. Do we need to know that you brushed your teeth? And whatever you do, please don't start to do something. I started to pack my bags. And then I got in the car. Well, wait, if you started to pack, you didn't finish packing your bags. How'd you get in the car without packing your bags and getting the rest? I packed my bags. Do you see? Don't start to do anything. Don't begin to do anything. Just do it. Nike has a good logo. When you're writing, just do it. Don't start or begin stuff. But then somebody else, so the first paragraph will be, they'll spend all this paragraph talking about how you drove to Dallas to catch the plane and that you stopped at the All Subs in Crosbyton to get a burrito, okay? Well, that's some detail, but if you're going to write about your trip to the Bahamas, what would I rather read about? Getting a burrito in All Subs, which I've had, or being in the Bahamas and drinking margaritas on the beach? What do you think? So don't do every single little movement. I mean, I've had people write their narratives and they gave me 2 sentences about the time they were in the Bahamas or whatever Caribbean place they went to, okay? So focus on what's important and don't give all those little details. So here's an example. As I went in the door, I turned and saw a TV. I looked around and saw posters on the wall. As I went further in, I noticed everyone was watching MASH. It's a bit wordy. Do we need to know you walked in the room and you looked around? Yes, you think, well, it's the narrative. I'm telling you everything I've done. I don't want to know, okay? And if you don't know what MASH is, that means nothing to you. Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. It was about the Korean conflict and a bunch of doctors. Huh?
MASH 4077.
4077, that's right, okay? So look at the improved one. I immediately noticed the posters on the wall, though everyone else's eyes were focused on a TV playing MASH. Much more, which one's better? And it's all done in 1 sentence instead of 3. And notice there's some bad repetition. As I went in the door, as I went further in, don't repeat phrasing. Don't begin sentences with the same words. Not right now. There are effective ways to begin sentences with the same words. If you've ever read the I Have a Dream speech, he begins a lot of sentences the same way. But he was building up to a major point. You're not writing the I Have a Dream speech, okay? Though we all wish we would have. Avoid second person narrative. Don't use you. That's one of the things that's happened on the paragraph. I have people all of a sudden in the middle of the paragraph, they've been talking about their family and go, or they'll talk about their trips and they'll go, if you could see this, I'm not part of the paragraph. It is, you don't address the reader. You is commands or instructions. You need to open up your books, begin taking your tests. That's instructions, right? And you is something that's almost interactive. If you stop in the middle of talking about your family's trip somewhere and then you say, if you could have seen this, all of a sudden you've left the topic. You've gone off topic by bringing you in. Because it's about your trip, so don't use you or your. There's been a lot of that. It seems like the later the paragraph comes in, the more I'm seeing you and your showing up, particularly in the last couple of sentences. And I'll get two summative sentences. My family is so special. I don't know where I would be without my family. I don't know. If I didn't have my hobbies, I would be so bored. I've seen that quite a bit too. Okay? So, avoid second person. Don't use you or your. So as you go in the door, you will turn to CCTV. So, avoid that. Writing in the present tense is not a problem. And the other thing I might recommend is, if you want to, when you write your narrative, if you want to write it with you, it's a story about you, but you make yourself a character, that's okay. I'm not going to go, why did you use your name instead of I? I don't want to read all those sentences with I. I'd much rather see, the boy did this. Make it third person, and then you can be a little more, you can play with the story. You can lie, okay? I'm not going to know if you're lying. Only if you tell me. To interest the reader, dynamic word choice is key. Avoid sounding clinical. You're not writing for the academic world just yet. Use the same slang, idioms, turns of phrase you would use in speech. And avoid passive constructions. Passive constructions are when you say, there are many exciting things to do in the Bahamas. Just go, the Bahamas have many exciting things to do. Much more interesting sentence. Avoid there is, there are, it is.
There is a variety of things to do.
No, that's the same thing. Just say, the Bahamas have a variety of things, activities to participate in. You've eliminated there. You don't need there. All the good stuff always happens after there, okay? It really does. So, example, I am presented an array of unpleasant photos in which many casualties are shown after automobile accidents. Yuck. Here, it's much more improved. They showed me a book stuffed with gruesome pictures of people who'd been in car wrecks. It's a stronger sentence. And it's clear what you're talking about. Legitimate references. One of the things we're going to do next is we're going to look at quotes from the textbook that may be a starting point for you to think about writing your narrative about. And I'm not going to ask you to do a works cited or works consulted. All I'm going to ask you to do is, if you quote, use a quote in your essay, that you credit the source in the sentence where the quote is. Okay? We'll worry about correct documentation later on. The example I use is, when I first saw the comic book fans jumping up and down, I thought as they would, Lord, what fools these mortals be, Gaiman, 1989. I later learned why they do this. This is Neil Gaiman. He writes a lot of fictional work. I've read several of his pieces. One of the most well-known out there right now and caused a bit of a problem was called Good Omens. And it's about a devil and an angel who since the beginning of time have interacted. And they've become frenemies. And they've decided together they're going to stop the apocalypse. Because they like the earth the way it is. Okay? And Netflix made a series out of it. So if you want to watch it, it's kind of interesting. If you're a Doctor Who fan, David Tennant plays the devil. So, or not Satan, but a devil. Okay? But that's who Gaiman is. That's some good writing. It's a little sacrilegious, but it works. And then they improve. The fans jump up and down, and look how it's expanded. When I first saw this, I wondered what they were doing, and my mind conjured a quote from Shakespeare that Neil Gaiman used in his Sandman. Lord, what fools these mortals be. However, I watched a bit longer and realized the company spokesmodels were throwing free merchandise. The fans wanted to get the most from their day at the convention. Who doesn't want to catch a free t-shirt now and then, right? I have several. Listen, they were giving away cookies. I went to the Texas volleyball game at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and they were giving away free cookies, and everybody's jumping up and down for free cookies, and they gave them to all the little kids. Give them to the old people. We want cookies too. Okay? The narrative essay is a keen rhetorical tool because it allows the readers to draw their own conclusions when you tell a story. But falling into the traps above deprive it of its effectiveness. So guide your reader subtly in the desired direction. All right, so that's one less down. So now we're going to look at the textbook and the quotations that you can use. No, actually, let's go look at the narrative outline document instead. We'll finish with that. The narrative outline document is due Sunday night. You have a copy of it here. It's also should be available in a discussion board. Let me go look. I kind of freaked out because I'm thinking, is it not there? Go to week 2. Have I made that discussion board? Narrative outline. Let's see. Yeah, it's set up for you. Okay, so when you go in to Blackboard, let me go back to narrative outline. Oh, I forgot. When you're in the discussion board, it kicks you into the discussion board automatically. So when you're in week 2, you're going to see narrative outline. You have a copy of the document. Hopefully your instructors, your facilitators gave you one. I know I gave you guys one. So here are the questions you have to answer. So when you open up that you're going to see form narrative outline. You create a thread, and then you just see how you can just copy that question. Come down here, paste it in, keep formatting. There we go. Then you answer that question, okay? And what I'm going to do on Monday is I'm going to go over your narrative outlines, try to get through as many as I can and say what I think of your topic, if it's going to work or not, okay? And this is worth 25 points. You need to do this. So did y'all see exactly what I did? I went up here, I took my cursor and I clicked and dragged. Or I could have clicked and dragged over all of them. I didn't have to do one at a time. Control copy. Control paste. Keep the formatting, and there it is. And you just answer the questions in here, okay? And so the very first question is, what is the conflict or source of tension in your essay? Here's a better version of it. All right. And one of the things, by having a paper copy, you can kind of draft on that, can't you? Give you a little bit of help. So what is the conflict or source of tension in your essay? There has to be something that you're going to discuss, whether it's the trip and how hard it was to get there, whatever it is you're going to be writing about. And what statement have you chosen as your thesis? So give me your thesis. If you use a quote, put that in there. If you're using something else, just tell me your thesis statement. How limited in time is your incident? Are you writing about 7 years, or are you writing about 1 hour? 1 hour. One of the most famous short stories ever written is called The Story of an Hour. It takes place over 60 minutes time. It's 2 pages long. So it tends to be anthologized in American literature books, which would have been junior English for most high school kids, by Kate Chopin. What emotional response does your narrative create in you, the writer? When you decided to write on that one, what were you feeling? What do you feel as you relive that narrative that you're writing about? And do you think it will draw or evoke a similar response in your audience? Okay. And then last, does the incident fully support the statement you have chosen? If you're going to talk about a lesson about life that you learned, is that in there? And do you actually, am I going to get that message? So that's the narrative outline. We're doing 3 of those. We're doing them over the narrative, the compare and contrast, and argumentative. We don't need we don't need an outline over a summary. It's a different kind of document. All right, so let me get out of there. Don't save. Okay, let's go look at the text. I'm still here. I've been gone from the textbook for a little while. Whoops. And I actually tell you where these quotes are in the syllabus. These are on pages 239 and 240 in the textbook, maybe through 241. So here's a popular saying: if you never have a dream, you'll never have a dream come true. Makes sense. If you don't have a dream, how can it come true? So that could be somewhere to start. Before I got married, I had 6 theories about bringing up children, and now I have 6 children and no theories. None of you have kids, right? I don't know about the high school. Somebody could. It's quite possible. It's always possible. I've had years where I've had questions. Do you?
I actually have one on the way. So
On the way?
December.
Woo,
around December.
December 10th? Okay, do you know what it's gonna be?
It's a girl,
It's a girl. Oh, do you have decided on the name yet?
Delilah Rose.
Delilah Rose, all right, I like that, that's cool. Biblical and, kind of older, an old fashioned with the rose in there, okay. So, don't know if you can write this though, okay? Because you don't have that baby yet. There are some things you can learn best in calm and some in storm. Sometimes we can learn things in the quiet times, when we're thoughtful and, you know, thinking about life, or when you're going through some kind of horrible event, that's the storm, okay? You can write about that. This one, I know you've heard this, success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. That's like those football coaches saying, oh, I need 150% from you today on the football field, okay? I need you out there sweating. I got to watch my oldest grandson play his first 7th grade football game yesterday. He was the center. Yeah, so he got to play a lot. But, yeah, their team got spanked, what can I say? Cooper spanked them pretty bad. So, and it was hot, that's all I gotta say. But, you know, what have you done, what have you worked hard to achieve? What's that saying? Success is not, what have you worked really, really hard and you felt like you've achieved something? That's there. Here's a good one. What a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive, by Walter Scott. Sir Walter Scott, okay? This is, my example of this is,
How complicated do you lie?
yeah, well, let's just say, back when my daughter was in high school, and she's 40 now, so, you know, the grounding was finally lifted. She said, Mom, Misty and I are gonna spend the night at Ashley's house. And Misty told her mom that that she and Kim were gonna spend the night at Ashley's house, and Ashley told her mom that she and Misty were gonna spend the night at our house. Well, we found out. We figured it out eventually, that nobody was at anybody's house. And they got caught. So, but, you know, have you ever lied about where you were gonna be to your parents? Yeah, I'm sure I did. You know, and you get caught. So what do you learn? What did you learn from getting caught? Okay?
Show that to our
Be more
parents,
sneakier.
so it's not me that lied.
Oh, it's not you. He's never lied to his parents. Never lied.
No.
You didn't break her doll? Huh? You sure? Positive, okay. Must be nice to be so good. I've lied.
It actually does.
It is good. Here's one. There's a sucker born every minute. Have you ever, okay, Lubbock School?
Yeah.
No.
Where'd you come from? O'Donnell. Oh, okay, so this will relate to you. How about Cooper? Okay, yeah. Cooper just smacked those little boys bad. That's all I gotta say, Megan. I graduated with 32 kids. Okay, how many were in O'Donnell?
We graduated this year 20.
Okay, so tiny. So you can imagine Morton's about the same size.
Yes.
Post is bigger, 2A school. So it might be in the 50, 55 range. But freshmen are pretty naive and gullible, right? There's a sucker born every minute. So when you're an upperclassman, you say, you get some freshmen with you. You say, we're gonna go snipe hunting. There's no such thing as a snipe, okay? And we would take them out to the cemetery, which is about a mile outside of town. And we'd go, okay, you hit these two sticks together and you drive the snipe towards us. And so they go off in the distance and then we get in the car and drive back into town. And they have to walk a mile into town, okay? So that's, you know, there's a sucker born every minute, so. What can we say? You know, so you've got, those stories happen in small towns more than they do in big towns. Though Cooper's rural enough that, yeah, but there's just too many kids. I'm glad they're building that second high school. They need it right now. Let's see, we lie loudest when we lie to ourselves. Well, it is. I mean, how often you say, well, that's not my fault, I didn't do that. Well, yeah, it is your fault. You know how we lie, that I didn't do that. That so-and-so made me do that, right? Aren't you lying to yourself when you say that? Yeah, I like to blame stuff on other people. I'm no different. I've just lived longer and have realized I've made all those mistakes, okay? This one, you're not married though, are you? No. Okay. All marriages are happy. It should say all weddings are happy. It's the living together afterward that causes all the trouble.
I've seen it happen
Yeah.
with my brother.
Oh, with your brother?
Oh,
Ooh.
Lord.
Oh, gosh. Sounds interesting, Jose. Hoping and praying are easier, but do not produce as good results as hard work. This is almost, seems to be a little anti-Christian in nature, doesn't it? But we're expected to not just hope and pray, but also to work. Yeah, you're also expected to work. So that's kind of interesting. I can go buy lotto tickets all I want, but that's not going to make me a millionaire, is it? I need to go out and work my butt off if I want to do that. Here, I like this one. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Well, it depends on what you're learning about, doesn't it? All right, nothing is as good as it seems beforehand. I'm going to paraphrase that one for you. The grass is always greener on the other side. What you have is okay, but it looks better over there, and you get over there, and guess what? Nothing is as good as it seems before there. It's like going to, here's a possibility. You're going to write about a trip to your favorite amusement park, and I'm just picking Six Flags, because I don't like going to Six Flags, I'll be honest. Disney spoiled me for Six Flags. I'm just throwing that out there. You get to Six Flags, and you have to stand outside, and it's hot and sweaty in Dallas, right, or Arlington. And you get in, and the lines are long, the bathrooms are gross, the water's overflowing, there's long lines for everything. It's not near as much fun as you thought it was going to be, right? Yeah. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. The more afraid you are of stuff, the more enclosed your life is. Do any of you have an older relative who's afraid to drive after dark? It happens. It happens. I don't see really well. It's not after dark that bothers me right now. It's when the sun's going down. It's cutting in, and I can't see. I mean, it's blinding me. So better watch out, all right, when I'm driving. But that is what happens. The amount of courage you have determines what all you're going to do in life. When I got to the end of my long journey in life, I realized I was the architect of my own destiny. You guys are too young for this one. I'm just telling you, okay? A fool and his money are soon parted. Did you have to have that in those name brand shoes? And you got them, and the first thing happens, they got dirty. They got scuff marks on them, those white pennies that are so important. Okay. Or that Coach purse, or is North Face still a big popular brand? Or what, if you're going to get a coat, UGG boots. The funniest thing to see in college is college girls wearing boots and shorts and whatever name brand coat, Columbia. I don't know what's the name brand right now. But, but they're wearing boots and shorts and a coat. That's a conflict. If you're cold, put on a pair of pants, right? All right. From what we get, we can make a living. What we give, however, makes a life. That's a deep one. It's all about what you give to others. Arthur Ashe is he's one of the first internationally known African-American tennis stars from America. I believe he caught AIDS and died of it, but there's an Arthur Ashe Foundation to help with. I don't even remember what it's all about, but important guy. No matter how lovesick a woman is, she shouldn't take the first pill that comes along. Guys, ladies, you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. They mean the same thing. Meeting all those bad guys is like taking medicine. It's not pleasant, but you have to get through it. Okay. Fear not those who argue, but those who dodge. Is anybody a Hamilton fan? Am I the only person that you guys haven't watched Hamilton? It's an awesome musical. One of the songs in it, but it says, fear not those who argue, but those who dodge. Aaron Burr is a dodger. He dodges letting you know who he really is or what he really feels. And one of the things he tells Alexander Hamilton is smile more, talk less, never let them know what you're standing for. That's a dodger. That's a politician, isn't it? Yeah. When I leave here and I go over to my office, I eat lunch and I put on either Wicked or Hamilton while I'm in my office because I can grade with those songs in the background. I can't do much else. All right, let's see. Trust in Allah, but tie your camel. If you don't tie your camel, what's the camel going to do? It's going to wander off, yeah. So that's kind of like the Andy Rooney one. Yes, Don't just think, don't expect God to do all the work, I guess is what we're saying there, okay? So there are other quotes. If you were by chance to come across one, or you have your own personal motto that you follow, you can use that as the starting point for your essay, okay? What I'm going to do right now is we're going to fly through lots of topics. This is available in the unit. Get out of the textbook now. I got to get out of the discussion board. So when you go into week 2, at the very bottom of week 2, remember, when you're taking a quiz, go to the week the quiz is set in. So that's why you need to have your syllabus handy, because the syllabus tells you when the quizzes are due. So don't look in week 3 for the test over chapter 3 and 4. It's in week 2 where it tells you you're taking it. So as you go down, you're going to see there's quiz 3, quiz 4. They're not going to be available until after 7 and 8 a.m. For some reason, I like making 7 a.m. Wow. Narrative outline, right underneath that is the possible topic list. So this is more along the lines of a possible title. So the first one is When I Got Lost. Ever get lost? When you're in Walmart? Oh, were you scared?
Yes, it was more I was scared because I didn't know English and I didn't know how to get.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So could you write that story? You could write that story. So the lesson you learned was, I need to hang on Mama's hand, right? I got lost, and that, of course, I was so long ago that back in the day, one of the attendants came up and got me, and they went up, would the parents of this little blonde-headed girl please come up and get her? And they're like, they weren't worried. They weren't worried about children being kidnapped 60-some-odd years ago. Not like they are now, okay? My favorite meal, possibly it might have been on your introductory discussion board. If I could go back in time in your life on this one. There's another one that actually, if you wanted to live in a different century later on. I saw the weirdest thing. I had a grandson send me a picture of a cat and a salamander. And I was like, why? Okay, because he's an 11-year-old boy, that's why. They think things are cool. If the cat was eating the salamander or the salamander was eating the cat, that would have been weird. An animal I would be, that's like superpower in it. Something I wish I had, a lot of money. Or, let's see, if I could only see one color, I don't think that's a good topic. If I could only see one color. You'd be losing so much, Here, if I could change one thing about me, I would like to be taller. It's really hard in the grocery store. Why is it that the things I want are on the top shelf and they're pushed way back and I can't get to them? So there I am in United, climbing up the shelves trying to get to it. A place I'd like to live, that's a possibility. I get essays about that. My secret place, something nobody knows about me. Hey guys, I missed the opportunity to dance with Lawrence Welk once. They're like, who's Lawrence Welk? Shows you how old I am. He played an accordion and used to have a show on Sunday nights where people sang and danced. Go back to the 60s if you want to see. Go to YouTube and look up Lawrence Welk. I'd like to invent this. I'm just going to tell you, 2 ladies from Brownfield created the game Uno. And it was bought by one of the game companies like Milton Bradley or someone. And they built big houses in Lake Ridge Country Club Edition in Lubbock because they could. They made a buku of money off of selling a card game, okay? Pretty cool. If I could be somebody else for a day, who would it be? What would you do? Most interesting animal encounter, okay. Have you ever had one? I'm going to tell you about mine. If you really want, besides YouTubing Lawrence Welk, YouTube Angry Birds or Angry Turkeys. We had a wild turkey move into our neighborhood in Lubbock 10 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And it kind of terrorized, but turkeys can fly. And I'm not kidding, that turkey was about this tall. Wild turkey. And they can fly well enough to fly up onto the top of somebody's house or up in a tree. And they're not really nice birds. They're angry birds. So I'm walking my dogs, because when you walk your dogs, it encourages them to poop, because that's what they need. It's exercise like it is for anyone else. So I'm walking my black lab, it's a pretty good size, and my Chiweenie. And they had done their business, and I picked it up, and it was in a United grocery sack, plastic grocery sack. So we're walking around, we come around the corner, and I look down the street, and I can see the turkey, and it's walking towards us. And it's about 3 or 4 houses away. So I think we'll go over to the other side. So we go over to the other side, and as we do, the turkey comes for us and jumps and flies onto the back of my black lab. The Chiweeni's gone underneath the car, and I'm swinging that bag of that poop at that bird to get it off my dog's back. And you know what happened to that bag of poop? It broke. There was poop all over. Yeah. So that could also be one of my most embarrassing moments too. But so, do you have any stories like that, okay? The longer you live, the more strange stories you can come up with. I'm just telling you, all right? Oh, and let's just say, or if, a lot of times like Newdale has this place called, they have this myth about the goat man who lives under the bridge.
Dear God.
Yeah. Well, you know, so most of the kids, it's like hunt and snipe, I think is what it is. It doesn't really exist, but you know, kids like to do that. So there are some fun things out there you can write about. So, but I prefer funny stories to sad stories.
Well, actually, mine was more so a horror story, but the chicken-footed man.
The chicken what?
Chicken-footed man, that's the story my mom came up with.
Okay. Okay. Save it. Maybe you write it in your narrative, okay? You won't believe I saw this. There goes that cat and the salamander, my grandson. My hero. I used to make, when I was teaching at Newdale, I would have students write, my
Your
personal
conference
hero
is
paper.
scheduled to end
And so
in
if you're
2
gonna
minutes.
write about your hero, sentences shouldn't begin with I, because it's about your hero, correct? And don't tell me they're a hero because they're always there for you, they do all this stuff for you. Tell me what makes them a hero without it being, everything is about you, then see how that puts the focus on you and not on your hero. We're almost out of time, but there's a lot more in here, okay? My favorite weather story, we all got to spend a week at home in February because of the weather. If I had $1 million, that's a paper that kids like to write. And they will write, I would buy myself a new car, pay off my parents' debt, and travel the world. So you could write the narrative of what you would do if you had that money. It's there. A job I hate to do. My parents were right. What a great title. My parents were right. They were right when they told me I shouldn't do that. That person wasn't a good person. My favorite toy ever, that was on the discussion board. If I had my own planet. There's always somebody who wants to write a fictional story. And they will write about back in the days and nights and there's magic and all that stuff. Or they'll talk, you know. There are kids who will actually try to write a fictional story. 500-word minimum. You don't want to write 1,000. That's too much because the more you write, the more grammar errors you'll have, so be careful. So be careful. But look through this. There's a lot in here, okay? The year 2050, just going to throw that out there. If you write about the year 2050, in 2050, how old will you be? That is 29 years from now. I will be 65. I will be 95, excuse me. I'll be 95, okay? You guys will be late 40s, maybe 50. Could you write that story? Have you thought that far ahead about what's going to happen in your life? Don't forget, chapters 3 and 4 quizzes are Friday. It's only going to show up on Friday. If you try to go in and take it on Saturday, it's not there. It opens
Your
at,
conference is now over.
I told you, it
Goodbye.
opens at 7 or 8 a.m. and it's open until midnight. After that, they're closed. Okay? You got to take them during the time. And you got the narrative due on Sunday night. The narrative outline. Okay? And we'll talk about grammar on Monday. Oh, I'm glad I don't have to talk about that anymore. By the time you teach it 4 times, it just becomes, I can't remember what I've said and what I haven't said, because I've said it already. So I apologize. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit different.
Well, this is interesting to me. Never actually wrote a narrative before.
You haven't? Okay.
Nope. Or at least not a very good one, from what I remember in high school.
Yeah, of course.
They're just on gone.
Well, they were packing up.
True.
But just the way I chose to phrase it earlier, there are many things to do in the Bahamas. How I said there is a variety of things, that's normally how my brain works.
Which is passive. So think about, so the place you're talking about to do it, put it first.
The Bahamas.
The Bahamas offers a wide variety of activities.
Not have.
No, the Bahamas the Bahamas offer a wide variety of activities. Offer is a much more active verb than is or are or was or were, okay? You wanna avoid the be verbs. Do you know what those are? Is, are, was, were.
Oh,
Am, things like that. That's passive is just, the action is delayed. It's like, it didn't really happen, right now it's happening, it happened later, or happened earlier, you know? So that's why passive is not as good. If you can get a verb that shows action, and I know offers doesn't seem like an active verb, but it is, compared to, there are many activities in the Bahamas. So that's all we're talking about, is, so if you're gonna write about your trip to the Bahamas, try to make it more active in nature. We jumped out of airplanes, we, water skied, we swam in the ocean, we snorkeled.
I had actually swam in the Mexican Gulf before.
Okay, where were you at?
It was 2 hours away from San Antonio, as far as I remember.
Huh.
I can't remember the name, but I remember.
Sort these out right now. I'm wondering how many of the kids in my class this morning took the long pages? Cause I'm missing the worksheet. Oh, this is interesting, okay. Already got it.
Another question I had was, what in the world is this?
What is what? That's a microphone,
Oh,
but they don't work. The system is slowly, more and more things break down. It's 13, 15 years old, but it's a microphone, so, and so, it won't even light up. That's how you know it's an active microphone, and that's why the kids at the schools, that's why I'm sitting up here, because the system's just gotten old.